morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2013. If you're listening on the radio and want to watch, please go to www.catex.com. The memorial service for Nelson Mandela is in process as we speak. It's being held in a soccer stadium in Soweto in South Africa. There are many dozens of world leaders there, both current and former. It's quite a collection of people. And President Obama had made a speech, a eulogy. A number of others are there, of course. Both French President Hollande and his predecessor, Nicolas Sarkozy, are there. Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, as well as David Cameron. It's really quite something. Unfortunately, there's a driving rainstorm going on. And the stadium is only half full at the moment, about 40,000 people. Here in the New York metropolitan area, there is the first taste of winter, a snowstorm, small, about 3 or 4 inches of snow, but it's been enough to cause massive traffic difficulties. Meanwhile, in reinsurance news, Brian Duperreault is back. Industry veteran Brian Duperreault has returned with a group of investors in a deal to buy out Bermuda reinsurer SAC Re. That company had been launched with the backing of billionaire trader Stephen Cohen. He's been forced to sell the company as part of a plea agreement with the federal government. Duperreault is the former CEO of ACE Insurance as well as Marsh McLennan. He's going to become CEO of the new business, which is going to be renamed Hamilton Re. The SAC staff is only about 20 people in total. Most of them are expected to stay with the firm. SAC Re CEO Simon Burton is going to leave the company, however. In addition to Duperreault, those in the investor group include affiliates of the New York hedge fund Two Sigma Investments, Capital Z Partners, and Performance Equity Management, as well as other institutional investors. The business model seems to be very much based upon Third Point Re's business model. It seems as if Two Sigma Investments is going to become the sole investment manager for Hamilton Re's investable assets. And of course, Mr. Duperreault will be able to whip the underwriting team into shape based on analytics, so it should perform very well, actually. Outgoing Lloyds Chief Executive Richard Ward is going to become the chairman of private equity-backed insurer Brit when he steps down from Lloyds later this month. Ward's appointment comes about 6 months after he announced his departure from Lloyds after 7 years in the top job. He's going to start at Brit on February 1st. The search for his successor now apparently is down to the final 2. Canopia's CEO Inga Beale is apparently one of the lead candidates. The headhunter company and the nominations committee at Lloyds are still considering their final decision. News or speculation about Beale's possible appointment is reaching a fever pitch in London at the moment. However, there is a second candidate whose identity is being kept a very close secret. So we'll see when this news comes out. It should be imminently. Meanwhile, 2 big buyers of reinsurance have indicated that they're going to cut back, further slowing down any momentum at all to the reinsurance sector. AIG, American International Group, has indicated that they're going to pull its quota share treaty ahead of the January 1st renewals. That's about a 30% share of their U.S. casualty book. It was placed by Guy Carpenter last year. AIG is thought to write around $1.3 or $1.4 billion annually in premium through its U.S. casualty portfolio. So about 30% of that would be about $400 million in premium that's not going into the reinsurance market. Meanwhile, QBE, as part of their retrenchment, is going to lift the attachment point of its global catastrophe reinsurance program by about $100 million for 2014. They also expect to cut their reinsurance costs by about 15%, but the 15% cut is coming after adjusting for the higher retention, so the actual reduction in premium flowing through to reinsurers is going to be even steeper. Here's an interesting story. U.S. specialty insurer W.R. Berkley is potentially on the hook for a payout of more than $178 million after a trucking company insured by one of its subsidiaries was found liable in a wrongful death suit. Berkley Carolina Casualty wrote a $1 million limit policy for a trucking company, Bondal Brothers. However, Berkley may also have exposure, quote, for extra contractual damages above the policy limit. No word yet on what those damages may be, but that would be an awfully big hit. Yesterday, there was leakage insofar as what the report was going to be from the National Transportation Safety Board on the crash of the Asiana 777 this summer in San Francisco International Airport. That was going to be revealed today in a hearing in Washington, D.C., but the snowstorm has shut down the federal government, and the hearing will not be held today. It will be held tomorrow. However, details did emerge. Whether they're correct or not, we don't know. However, the Wall Street Journal has reported them. Apparently, the NTSB report found that the veteran pilots on the 777 were not well enough trained on how to use the 777's computerized guidance system, and apparently were unaware of some of the moves they were making having effects that they did not envisage. So as a result, when they disengaged the autopilot, they actually thought they were shutting off the speed thrusters when in fact they hadn't. By the time they realized the mistake, they ended up being too close to the runway and had to adjust. Of course, Asiana is blaming the training on Boeing, and to be fair, Boeing does conduct all 777 training in their own flight simulators, so we'll see whether or not this means anything. 61 passengers have lawsuits pending against Asiana Airlines right now. In Egypt, there was a very fiery fuel truck explosion this morning, killing at least 14 people in a town about 50 miles from Cairo. A fuel tanker overturned on a road in the desert between the coastal city of Alexandria and Garbia province. The fire then consumed a minibus which was passing, killing the 14 passengers on board. Well, here's another interesting story. Computer breaches at the foreign ministries of the Czech Republic, Portugal, Bulgaria, Latvia, and Hungary, not exactly military threats, have been traced to Chinese hackers. That's good news, not to the National Security Agency. The attacks began in 2010. They're continuing, according to a report released this morning by a computer security company in California called FireEye. This is a reminder, according to FireEye, that Chinese hackers continued to break into the computer systems of governments and firms using simple email-based attacks. Of course, it's well known that the Chinese are trying to penetrate a number of accounts in the United States, including those of financial institutions, not to mention the government. There was an interesting scene in San Francisco yesterday. Bankrupt locales are obviously facing difficulties such as Detroit and other places, but on the other end of the spectrum you have very wealthy locales. What's happening in San Francisco is very unusual because of the proliferation of high-tech jobs with high salaries, causing increases in rents, causing eviction notices to long-term tenants. The biggest offender, according to protesters, is none other than Google. Google, in fact, sends their buses, their luxury buses, deep into the San Francisco urban landscape every day to pick up Google employees and bring them out to their lush campus south of the city. Well, yesterday, a group of protesters stopped one of the luxurious Google buses in its tracks. They surrounded the bus, chanting, "San Francisco, not for sale." The melee went on for about 30 minutes. Others yelled, "Stop evictions now." This all added to concerns that the Google buses are injuring public transportation by drawing business away from them, as well as blasting the rent sky high because of the prices that can afford to be paid by the highly salaried Google employees. Very interesting. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.